Helping Seniors Television, all about improving quality of life for seniors. If you're a senior, know a senior, or plan to be a senior, then this show is for you. It's all about helping you develop your own aging plan so you can age actively and with dignity. Helping Seniors Television from the Helping Seniors Network of information, education, and resources. Welcome to today's edition of Helping Seniors Television from the Helping Seniors Network. Whether you are caring for a senior, are a senior, or just plan to be one, we hope you'll enjoy today's program.
On today's edition of Helping Seniors TV, what happens when seniors get into financial issues because of cost of medical care and other life events? Find out about debt relief for seniors. There are more options and protections than you may be aware of. Listen as Helping Seniors TV host Joe Steckler talks with attorney Ruth Rhodes of the Rhodes Law Firm in Melbourne, Florida. This show is not intended as legal advice, but could be helpful to you in learning about this important topic.
I'm Joe Steckler, and welcome to this edition of Helping Seniors. It's my pleasure this morning to introduce Ruth Rhodes. She is an attorney, but Ruth, you bring, first of all, welcome to the show, Ruth.
Thank you, Joe.
It's very pleased. But as I want you, our viewing audience, to understand that Ruth's practice of the law is something that we have never really discussed in close to 500 filmings. We have never really talked to an attorney that is a litigator at primary practices in bankruptcy and also does elder law. So I think, Ruth, what you bring, and frankly, viewers, I told Ruth that I wish she would have been a member of our organization for many years, because over the years I have agonized over where to send people that have called me for help. And had you been one of our sponsors or been somebody that I knew more about, I could have referred so many cases to you, Ruth, that would have helped them more affectionately or effectively than I could. I must admit that, because we're going to talk about bankruptcy today. And this is something that very few talk radio shows or television shows even talk about. I don't even know where to go to look it up. I'll Google it later on today. But first of all, just give us a little background about what your background is, what you bring to the field of elder law.
My background. Oh, well, I'm from West Melbourne. I grew up there, and a lifelong resident in Brevard County, and I graduated from Melbourne High School. Go Bulldogs. I decided about halfway through my first career, which was as a paralegal, that I wanted to go to law school. So I decided to go to law school, put my eggs in order, and went to law school. And I went to Florida A&M University College of Law in Orlando, and I graduated in 2006 as the class valedictorian. During law school, my parents were getting older, and there was some things that needed to be dealt with right away. So I was introduced to the area of elder law during law school unexpectedly. I needed to help them maneuver through the Medicaid application process so that they could get some help at home. I needed to help them get their estate planning in order. I didn't know how to do any of these things because I'm just a law student. So I had to do a lot of research, hire an attorney to help my mom and dad, and just dealing with my own family really brought elder law to me. When I graduated law school, I got a job doing civil litigation, nothing to do with elder law. But just dealing with my own family, my mother, my father. I had an older brother that passed away that I had to help with Medicaid for him. And then I also have a quadriplegic brother. So lots of issues dealing with disability, Medicaid. That was just in my family alone. So it was very natural for me to get into the practice of elder law. So I have a family issues that took it to me, and then I took it from there and made a business out of it.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're looking for an executive director. Do you want to have another career change instead of being an attorney? You want to be our new executive director? I'm only kidding, but we couldn't pay you what you make as an attorney. But seriously, viewer, what's important, and what you heard Ruth talk about her background, she has sort of put in a nutshell the whole aspect of getting older, problems that we have to face that we don't think about. What are some of the areas that we could do a better job of helping people in, and how can we solve some of the problems? You did that when you talked about helping your brother, helping your family members, your mother and father. You were studying law. You realized you didn't have the ability to help them most effectively. And this is one of the hardest things, Ruth, that we have, and I've had in dealing with elders over the years, is to get our aging and elderly population to understand that many times there's better ways to do things than the way they're trying to do them.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I can't tell you how many times I'll sit down with someone and say, I wish you had come to talk to me before you did this or before you did that, because we could have changed the outcome of whatever the situation is. And that could be someone coming to me because they have to put a family member into a nursing home, and now they're broke because they spent all the money paying for medical care that I could have helped them with, either through maybe a bankruptcy situation or just planning the Medicaid properly. Yeah, and I would like to make sure that the population gets educated that there are things out there that can help them, and to do it sooner rather than later.
That's the whole purpose that we considered when we founded Helping Seniors back in 2011. How could we do a better job of disseminating information and education to seniors and those that cared for seniors, and then connect these people to the types of services that they needed the most? And that's exactly what you're doing in your law profession.
Yes.
The one area that, I work very closely with elder law attorneys, but we've never really worked with litigators, and people, I think, don't really understand what litigation means. So please explain how the practice of litigation and what you could do through litigation that could help seniors get themselves in a better position to do the things they need to do. Can you do that?
I think I can. I can give you some examples where litigation can be very beneficial to an elderly person.
Okay, that's exactly what I want.
One of the main things that I can think of right off the top of my head is oftentimes we have seniors that are easily exploited, easily taken advantage of, and could be exploited by a family member or a neighbor, where their properties are taken from them, money that they saved up their whole life, or even their house. I've had cases where, in fact, I've had at least 2 to 3 cases where I've had to sue either a family member or a neighbor to take back a house that was illegally taken from an elderly person. And oftentimes I will end up filing a lawsuit to get the property back. And many of those times they just settle. Maybe not right away. Sometimes we have to put a lot of pressure on them through the litigation process. But all the cases I've had so far with the theft and exploitation, I've been able to settle except for one, which I'm still litigating.
Wow. But what is the word? What does litigation itself mean?
Oh.
What does that mean?
Okay, all right. So litigation is when you have a complaint and you take it to the court, and it starts with a lawsuit, and the lawsuit is initiated with a document called a complaint, and in the complaint you set out all the reasons that you've been wronged and the remedies that you're asking the court to give you. So with an exploitation case, we may use a Florida statute on exploitation of the elderly as part of a cause of action. A cause of action is a wrong against you that there may be a remedy for. So with exploitation, there may be a count in the complaint for exploitation to get the house back, that the house was illegally taken, these are the reasons why, and we're asking the court for a remedy of getting that property back. Litigation is a process through the court system, and there's rules in place that tell you how you can play the game and how you can litigate the case.
Okay, Have you found over the years in working with senior citizens, have you found that if the senior will come to you and explain the situation, while that senior may have thought that they didn't have any recompense or any way to resolve the issue, could you sort of refute my comment and say that, or could you say that in most cases, if a good attorney that practices the types of law that you do, they could have had a better chance of trying to resolve that problem earlier for that senior successfully if they'd gotten to you?
Yes. I think early intervention or early getting an attorney involved and maybe negotiating on your behalf, it could result in a much better outcome the earlier they get involved than later. And often if you wait too long, property could disappear, witnesses could disappear, and the way that you can prove your case can become more weak as time goes by. So if you think you have a right to sue someone or someone's hurt you, you should see an attorney right away and see if there's anything that can be done sooner rather than later. And if you wait too long, you could lose the absolute right to go after them at all because of statute of limitations. So you don't want to wait too long. And depending on what your situation is, there's different statutes of limitations that could apply. So you want to see an attorney right away about those things.
A lot of seniors, Ruth, when they feel that they've or believe that they've been wronged, will call us or they call other organizations, and many of them are directed to the State Attorney General's office out in the Vieira complex. Is that a good way for a senior to start, or should go to an attorney first? Or could the old Attorney General, did you know Laura Moody?
Yes, she's one of the prosecutors at the State Attorney's office.
And I know that she had she was very protective of senior citizens. Yes. Laura was, but she's no longer in that position. But somebody in her position, could they better be served by going to somebody like that, or going to somebody that you do that is
for exploitation?
Yeah,
situations.
And not only that, and then debt problems that come out, and we want to talk about that.
Okay. Well, with regard to the exploitation, that can be a criminal offense as well as a civil offense. Criminal is through the state attorney's office. A private attorney doesn't have a right to go after someone criminally, but we can go after them civilly. So sometimes a dual approach is a good way of handling things. But I will say, when I have clients that are financially devastated because of what's happened to them, we usually will have them come in for a consultation. We'll talk to them about what their situation is and try to figure out the least expensive options to getting their property back. And that usually will start with a telephone call to the DCF to report an exploitation, a telephone call to the local police department, and then a meeting possibly with the estate attorney's office.
Okay.
And even with our office, sometimes a senior needs more than just saying, here's what you need to do. Sometimes we have to go with them. We'll go with them to the police department, make the report, and talk to the state attorney's office, whatever they need to help them get that going. Because that's the least expensive way to do it, is to have the system, the criminal system, see if they can get the property back, because it'll cost less.
But the cost is always something that they have to consider. Mm-hmm. But I also think that the cost that can be incurred if we don't, as I read what you do and what your practice consists of, I can see ways that a person could go to you early on mm-hmm. and be informed of better ways to approach the criminal aspect of it as opposed to the civil side of it.
Yes, absolutely. We will help people figure out the best strategies. They know their situation probably better than I will. They're going to know the facts. They're going to know the people. Maybe if it's usually it's a family member or someone they know when it comes to this exploitation situation. They may know inside information that I am not privy to that they can help me with, and then we can set up me and the client together can figure out what the best strategy would be. Is it a combination of involving the criminal system along with me coming at it from another angle with the demand letters and maybe initiating a lawsuit? It could be a dual thing that we do together. Whatever it takes, and everyone's case is different, so it's hard to come up with, you know, what is the answer, because we look at each person's case and figure out what's the best for their case.
But you bring us a side to this that of the total picture that most of us don't think about, and that's what I'm starting to get. I realize now from reading some of the material that you sent me that there's a lot that I needed to know over the last 20 years that I didn't know, and I probably could have helped people a lot better than I did, and I must admit that, because I didn't have the knowledge. For instance, you talked about litigation involving medical costs and how that can lead to a filing of bankruptcy. We've never talked about that. So I would like for you to talk to our viewing audience today, Ruth, a little bit about how the debt problems that we get from medical costs, that's probably the biggest cost that seniors can incur over the years, and how much of this evidently ultimately must lead to bankruptcy, and why in some cases that's good and why in some cases it's bad. So if you could sort of give our viewing audience an overview of what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So they understand it, not just me talking about it.
Okay. Well, often I'll have a consultation with a client who has gone through a medical problem, cancer, a heart attack, or some situation that has caused a lot of debt, and they can't afford to pay it. And now they're getting harassed by creditors because oftentimes the medical facilities will sell the debt to a debt collector, and then they'll start getting phone calls, and the stress of the phone call and the multitude of phone calls can become very stressful and difficult for the individual. Whether they're older or younger, it doesn't matter. Medical debt can be financially devastating. So what I do when I have someone come in who has a lot of medical debt, I'll talk to them about whatever their situation is, as far as, you know, what kind of finances do they have? Do they have sufficient income that if we take you through the bankruptcy process, which it can be difficult, but we do everything we can to keep it easy and make it smooth. But if we bring you through the bankruptcy process, are you going to be okay on the other side? Do you have enough income to continue paying your bills as they come? If we were able to get rid of all the debt, can you pay your bills, your regular bills, your utilities and your rent and whatever you need to live? Because I never want to bring someone through a bankruptcy process and then have them in a bad situation at the other side. I want them to have their fresh start and be able to breathe again and financially be okay. So I'll look at their assets to see if they are at risk of losing assets if they go through bankruptcy.
Like if they go through bankruptcy, what kind of assets could they lose?
Well,
or what assets can they not lose?
Well, there's a lot of assets that are protected. Your homestead is protected for one thing. And some assets can be protected by its own debt. So if you own a car, you could own a brand new 2018 car, but if you just bought it and it has a ton of debt on it, because it's usually when you buy a new car, it loses value immediately. And when you take it off the lot, you now owe more on it than it's worth.
Right.
So the debt of that property would protect that property. But what if you bought that car and you really couldn't afford it? That would be, bankruptcy could be a way that we can get rid of that debt for you, so you can make a better choice on maybe you shouldn't have bought that BMW, maybe you should have bought the lesser expensive domestic car. But that's ways that we can use bankruptcy too, is to, if you've, not just with medical debt, but with other debt, if you've taken on too much, if you've used your credit cards too much, we can help with relieving you of that stress.
I want to ask a really hard question, and I know it's sort of unfair to ask this, but most people, Ruth, have an idea that it's wrong to file for bankruptcy. I mean, that's the way I was raised. That if you can't pay your bills, you shouldn't incur the bills in the first place.
Yes.
But you just brought up something that some people, if a life or death situation. I can think of the procedure I just had on my heart that will probably cost $250,000. And I'm covered through the fact that I'm on Medicare and I have TRICARE for life as a result of military. But most people are not in that situation. Mm-hmm. If somebody has a $250,000 operation and they're on Medicare, they're still responsible for 20% of that. And if they don't have insurance to cover that, or if they couldn't afford insurance, there are a lot of people that can't afford insurance. So here you are. It's either a life or death situation. If you don't have the surgery, you're going to die. If you have the surgery, you've incurred a debt. So ultimately, they may have to file bankruptcy.
Right, and there should be no shame in that. It's not something that you brought on yourself. It was a necessary thing. You either get the surgery or you die, and that's not an option. So you're going to get the surgery and you're going to live, and so you have debt that has to be dealt with. And bankruptcy is a law that's been put in place to protect us, to give consumers a fresh start. It's a beautiful process. It's not to be abused, although some people do abuse it, and there can be a stigma connected to the word bankruptcy. But it's a process that is necessary. And if you incurred a debt to save your life, it's not like you were frivolous and went out and, spent a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Right. This is something you needed to save your life. And the bankruptcy code is created to protect you, to give you that fresh start when you have a problem like that. And it happens to everyone. I mean, not everyone's going to have a bankruptcy situation, but things happen to people. People get divorced. There's death. There's all kinds of events that you cannot account for or possibly save up enough money to pay for, like a $250,000 operation. That would be someone's entire nest egg. So, and I would hate to see someone spend all their nest egg if we can avoid it. So, yes, there is a stigma that can go along with it, and I've had so many clients come see me and just be shameful, feel full of shame that they have to file bankruptcy, but that's why the law is there. It's there to protect you and to give you that fresh start and let you be able to live your life without that, that pressure hanging over your head.
But I think it takes a special attorney, a special type person to help a person that's filing for something like this to understand
to deal with that.
Why they should do what they need to do.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. And I will sit down with a client and take the time to explain to them and talk to them about and deal with their own morality over it, their ethical issues over bankruptcy, and talk to them through it. And I can say that I think without exception, all of my clients, they eventually they accept it, they understand it. They don't have the shame anymore, and they understand that this is a process.
Okay, there's something that was in a paper. You sent me a lot of paperwork to read. I think it was your paralegal that did that?
My associate attorney and paralegal.
Okay, it was an extremely good overview of a lot of situations. One thing I learned in the process of filing for bankruptcy are things in your assets being attached. They cannot attach your Social Security.
Yes, that's very important.
I think you can explain to our viewing audience a little bit about the importance of Social Security and the fact that they cannot attach that?
Yes, we have exemptions in the code. An exemption is a protection over your assets, over your income. One of the most important exemptions to the older folks is that protection over their retirement money, and that includes Social Security, and that can include their retirement funds. Pension money can't be attached. So if you have a creditor who wants to garnish your Social Security money, and it does happen, even though it's illegal, even though they know they're not allowed to touch it, they still will. There's a lot of unethical
and
creditors.
Unsuspecting people will go ahead and pay the darn thing.
Absolutely, and they won't know that they have a right to stop it. And that's where I can help someone if this is happening. I can stop that garnishment. I can even get money that was taken improperly returned if it truly was improperly taken. And that includes Social Security money not just coming straight from the government on your check, but they also can't garnish your bank account if that's your Social Security money is going into there. There are exceptions to that.
How about a 401k?
401ks are also exempt from garnishment.
So what we're saying is that when people try to attach your sources of living, and then you need to contact somebody like Ruth.
Oh, absolutely. Even if it's not retirement money, even if it's your wages, there's only so much they can take. And they may not be able to take anything, especially if you are head of household, or, you know, like if you have children that you have to care for and provide for, or a spouse that you have to provide for. There may be exemptions available to protect those incomes and your bank accounts. And if your assets are structured and set up in a certain way, or are titled in a certain way, there may be additional protections available. For example, a husband and a wife, they are, or now we have a same-sex marriage too, so it would apply in that case as well. But where you have a married couple and they own property in a certain manner, it's called tenancy by the entireties. That is a special way that only married people in Florida can own property. And if the debt is only to one spouse and not to the other spouse, then that entire piece of property, if it's titled correctly, should be protected from the creditor. So that would apply to bank accounts, that would apply to cars, that would apply to homes. And homes brings in even an additional protection, because in Florida we have an awesome homestead protection.
Okay, we're just about out of time, but
okay.
I think from what you're saying, I want to say real quick. If people think that they have a problem, they probably should, you give a free consultation.
Always give a free bankruptcy consultation.
Why not just call your office, say, I need to talk to you, find out what I need to do, and it would be a good thing.
I think that's a great suggestion. Just come see me, talk to me. I'll give you some advice for free on what you should do, what maybe your next step should be.
We're out of time.
Are we?
We're just out of time. I know. We'll pick this up on another TV show someday.
Okay.
But I thank you, viewers, for watching the show today. And I hope you've learned something from listening to Ruth about what she does to help seniors. I'm Joe Steckler. Thank you for joining our program today. I'd like to remind you that our senior information line is available to you at 321-473-7770. There you can get help and direction that could be helpful for your specific situation or circumstances. The work of helping seniors is very important, but we can't do it alone. That is why our sponsors here in Brevard County are so important. I'd like to thank our many area sponsors, businesses and medical providers who support the mission of helping seniors that help us carry the cost of our media efforts. If you'd like to join us either as a business partner or simply donate as an individual, we would welcome your call at 321-473-7770. You are always welcome to visit our website at www.helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. Thanks so much for your help. It does make a difference.